Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 of my fantasy takeaways from week 6 of the fantasy football season. Another interesting fantasy week is in the books. We had 7 different players top 30 fantasy points, so we had some big scores this week, but we also had some players that really had disappointing performances. Some guys that's been really good, so I felt like the scores were really uneven this week. Hopefully you had some of those big performers on your roster for those players. The top 30 fantasy points were running backs this past week. So that position had a good week. Hopefully you had at least one of those guys on your team. You came out on top, but I'll give you 5 of my takeaways from this week. And I'm going to start with Drake Maye is the real deal. If you still had questions about him, you didn't know if he was for real. I think he is. He has 3 touchdown games, 3 of 5. He has 23 plus fantasy points, 4 or 5 games. He's been so consistent. And in this game, if you didn't watch it, he made some unbelievable throws that were right on the money that were just missed, either dropped, called back by a penalty. He is just so impressive right now. I think Maye is just a super talented player, and I'm not selling high on him. Some people might think, hey, I got him for a good value. I can sell high on him now and get some good value for other positions, but I'm not doing it. I think Maye is going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback the rest of the way. I'm enjoying the ride and the value, and I'm taking advantage of that on my team. My second takeaway is the Jets need to overhaul their entire offense. That display this past week was one of the worst I've ever seen offensively. They had less than 100 total yards in that game. They had 82 total yards. Justin Fields was a disaster. He had 5.35 fantasy points. Just awful this past week. They completely mismanaged the clock at the end of the first half. I don't know what they were doing. They were calling timeouts to move the offense. They got to like the 50-yard line, and then they just let the time run out. Why not at least take a chance down the field, do something, kick a 70-yard field goal? I don't care. Their offense is just brutal right now. Garrett Wilson was fired up going into the half about the way things played out. I don't blame him. He had a terrible game as well. You have to feel for him. They're still looking for a franchise quarterback. Justin Fields is not the answer. I know he's had some big fantasy games this year. He did a lot of that in garbage time when they were down big. So if they're in games and it's close, the defense plays better. I just worry about Fields from a fantasy perspective. I think he could be up and down, unfortunately. So I just think the Jets need to overhaul nearly everything from coordinator to getting more help for Garrett Wilson at receiver and looking for a new franchise quarterback, unfortunately. So that was just an ugly, ugly display. My next takeaway is I think Joe Flacco is going to be a big help for those Bengals receivers. Jamar Chase had 10 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins had 5 catches for 62 yards. This was against a good Packers defense as well. They threw the ball 45 times with Flacco. I don't think Flacco is going to be much of a help to fantasy teams in general, but I think he's going to give those 2-star receivers a big boost. He's going to look their way often. He's a veteran. He knows who to lean on in the passing game. He's going to look for those 2-star receivers. So I'd feel pretty good about things in Cincinnati if I had Chase and Higgins, because I think they got a chance to really rack up some catches in the coming weeks. My next takeaway is I'm not sure how the Panthers are going to bench Rico Dowdle when Chuba Hubbard comes back healthy and into the lineup. Dowdle has been just unbelievable. 2 straight games with more than 200 total yards. He has 180 plus rushing yards each of those 2 games, top 30 fantasy points each of those games. I think it's going to be more of a timeshare going forward. Dowdle could keep starting. I know they gave Hubbard a big contract this offseason. He's their starting back, but you can't ignore the production from Dowdle. So if you're worried about him, you have him on your fantasy team. What's going to happen when Hubbard gets back? I think Dowdle's got to at least be in the mix with the way he's played. He's been just absolutely unbelievable. So I'm interested to see how this plays out going forward. My last takeaway for this week is Jackson Dart is going to be a fantasy factor for years to come, in my opinion. He has topped 20 fantasy points each of his first 3 games as a pro, and his career high in passing yards is just 202. So his floor is super high, and he's doing this without his top receiver, Malik Neighbors. He's just going to get better and better as he gets more confidence, as the Giants surround him with more pieces. There's rumors even that Chris Olave could be traded to New York. That would be huge for Dart. So I'm just super excited about Dart. If I'm in a dynasty league, I love having him as my quarterback on my roster. He's been unbelievable since taking over that starting role. I think he's just going to get better and better as well. He's such an exciting young fantasy player. All right, those are 5 of my fantasy takeaways for week 6 of the fantasy football season. Hope you had a lot of success this week and won a lot of games. This has been Jeff Paur for Real Time Fantasy Sports.